Okay, welcome everybody. I hope you can hear us loud and clear. I hope you enjoyed the opening sequence brought to you by I want to get by Rokk. Okay, you'll notice you'll notice, ladies and gentlemen, we had a few hiccups. We're trying some different technology today. Don't worry. Order was last minute, literally a minute before broadcast. We decided to change the video conferencing service that we're using, and it means we're flipped. But we like it this way, and if it's successful, we'll be going forward. First of all, chat. Welcome everybody in the chat. Welcome. I hope we're coming across nice and clear. I hope you are all good and are looking forward to another great Generation X Retro Gaming Club episode 5 in the house, episode 5. I hope that you've all been good. You've been having a good gaming week and everything else. Coming up this week, of course, we're going to have news on this day in gaming history, 64K of memories, and maybe some other feature, what we bought, what we got, or more like what's on the box, what's in the box. I think we've got to think of a title for that. What's on the box, what's in the box. That's quite good. What's on the box, what's in the box. I quite like that one. Hello, chat. Hello there, Antonio, Azadini, Jerome, everybody, all our regulars. Thank you for coming along today for what we hope is going to be a good show. If you're new, I'm looking at the viewers. None of you are new, but if you are new, then for the benefit of people who may be catching up later,
where have you been?
Yeah, where have you been? What's wrong with you? It's 8 o'clock today. What is a Generation X Retro Gaming Club? Well, basically, it's a regular podcast that Rokk and I do every Tuesday evening, where we look at gaming from a Generation X perspective. So the slightly older gamer, as it were, and we talk about all that's new in gaming now, but also we like to sort of talk about gaming throughout the years and stuff. So if that sort of is your thing, it's a mix of retro gaming and current gaming, then with a slightly older perspective, this is the place to be every Tuesday night with the Rokk and me.
The Rokk and the Clive.
Yeah, the Rokk and the Clive, exactly. So, on that note, let's kick on, shall we? As I say, we've got news, a history lesson. We're going to do a bit of a history lesson. We've got, as I said, this day in gaming history, 64K of memories, what the box looked like, and what the game looked like. But, ladies and gentlemen, but, before all that, how has your gaming life been this week, Mr. Stone? What have you been playing?
Thing is, Clive, I've been working a lot this week, as I know you have as well, putting together some stuff for a top secret mission on Friday. But in between all that, I have been mainly playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, catching up, as I said the other week, catching up on games that I've bought that I kind of want to complete with all the new ones that are coming up. So, been putting in a lot of time with Cassandra, and which is ironic because it's very close to my wife's real name.
Oh.
But that's the way it goes when you get old, isn't it? So, no, it's been good fun. How about your good self?
A few misunderstandings there, and hilarity would ensue, in like some sort of sitcom. Cassandra, come down from the mountain. But,
I like to think she'd think that was that mountain, mate.
Exactly. Oh, early. It's 8 o'clock. Remember, we're on early now. No, pre-watershed. I'm joking. I'm joking. Yes. So I must admit, Assassin's Creed is on my list to get, and I think it'll probably be the next purchase I make while it's in the sale period. I just want to sort of get it so I can do it because I think it's sort of my kind of game. But as most people know who follow me, PUBG, that's what I've been doing. Of course, I keep doing because I've been streaming a lot of PUBG. it's my streaming go-to. I'll do a bit more variety on my Lord Kensal of Stadia channel, but at the moment, PUBG's quite fun. I've been streaming with Yoshida, and I teamed up with my son, who was on console, interesting enough. So he was on the Xbox One, and we were on Stadia. We're all in the same squad. Game chat sort of works okay, although he couldn't quite hear me, but that may be to do with his Xbox settings. But we managed to get around it and use Discord, and it sort of worked okay. So we had a cross-console squad, and it was a lot of fun. And he definitely showed me how PvP works by sort of going on a 10-kill streak while I was bumbling along with my 2 or 3 kills a game. Yeah, and he hadn't played the game in ages, but he did have to wait 40 minutes for it to download. Yeah. No downloads on Stadia. But that's not about Stadia. I did that all yesterday. Don't worry about that. I did buy NBA 2K.
Yes, I did too.
No idea how to play it.
Me neither.
Not even sure I know. I vaguely know the rules of basketball from high school, but as you all know, viewers, that was a very, very long time ago.
Netball for men.
Exactly. Depends what school you went for. Well, yeah.
We didn't have any girls at my school, so it was always netball.
Ah, well, there we are then. Yeah, yeah. They didn't really play it at my school. It was football and rugby.
Football, rugby, and cricket, no doubt.
A little bit of cricket. Yeah. Then I went to the grammar school, and there was no football. It was just rugby or hockey in the sixth form. So when I went to high school, it was football, soccer. And then when I went to the grammar school for sixth form, it was rugby and hockey. Yeah.
Did you what position did you play in rugby then? I mean.
Oh yeah. I actually did play rugby at high school. I played fullback, and interesting enough, I was a bit of a skinny, tiny, slightly underdeveloped lad.
Nothing like
not like the strapping guy I am now. Yeah. In my early, when you see, like when I pick my daughter up from school and you see the seventh formers, and they look tiny in their outsized blazers, and they look so cute because like 3 months ago they were still at primary school. Yeah. I was a bit like that, and I had no idea about the game of rugby, and they explained all the positions, and then they said, "What's the fullback do?" And then somebody said, "Well, the fullback is the last position, the last man standing, basically. It's a bit of a suicidal position." Because you have the whole team bearing down on you, and nobody normally wants to play that. And I thought, well, if I want to get in the team, that's the part. That's for me, yep. Right? I don't care. I want to get in the team, so I'll play the suicidal part, and I live to regret it. I was playing in a school match in which we were thrashed about 83-0. And the opposition team, public school it was. Well, I was just like a normal school, but this was like public-private school thing. Yeah. The guy was built like a Joe Malulu, the old New Zealand guy, and so it was like a bulldozer that could sprint like Usain Bolt. Yeah. Yeah. And he got the ball and he sprinted, and every time it was like Roadrunner. Like I was like Coyote, getting run down by a train or something. And then they'd pick me up like a thin piece of paper, like a cartoon, and then start pumping me up. That every time that's happened, every time, literally, there was the imprint of my body in the mud where a bulldozer would basically run me over like a cartoon. And one cold sponge down the back too many, and they said, "That's it, you're off, mate." And I was very grateful for it, and I never got picked for the team again. Thank God.
It was a great tactic then.
But it got me in the team. Yeah. But it nearly killed me.
Nobody wanted you were there by default.
Yeah, but we're not here. We're not here to talk about my great sporting achievements from back in the day. So yes, NBA. I plan to give it a stream, and I'm thinking what we should do is we should stream it on this channel. No, not NBA. That's different. So I am going to do NBA on my Lord Kensal of Stadia channel. A first look, a noob plays NBA. I think that'd be quite amusing. But the other game, I thought I was talking about there, is Doom 64. Yes. Now, I think Doom 64 would be a great game for us to stream on the Generation X Retro Gaming Club because it's a sort of retro game.
It is very much a retro game.
So that, ladies and gentlemen, is something to look forward to.
Yeah. Is there multiplayer on
I'm not
PS4?
sure. I haven't looked at it. Chat, maybe you know or not. I don't
Think
know.
there is. I've got a feeling there is. There's the campaign, obviously, and I've got a feeling that there is a multiplayer. But chat will know.
Chat will
Because
know. Chat will
is
know.
the one.
Is there multiplayer in Doom 64? I mean, I can't imagine there would have been other than co-op on screen, you know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, to be fair, when it first came out, I doubt that was even much of a thing, was
No.
it?
So I can't, you know, co-op thing wasn't unless it was multiplayer on screen, like split screen. That's the
No,
only thing I can think
indeed.
of.
I've got to unless they've built it into the updated version.
Yeah,
Which is possible, but
straight port. Anyway, there we go. So that's our gaming life. Chat, let us know in the chat what you've been playing this week, what games you've been enjoying. As we head into the news. So a quick dance around the news day. And actually, talking of crossplay, my first news item is about an announcement from the creators or publishers of Division 2, Ubisoft, who were pointing out that Division 2 is unlikely ever to have crossplay on Xbox or PS4. So we know that Stadia has crossplay with PC. But Ubisoft have been saying, and this is in the sixaxis.com, we call that page up here, and let me see if I can get it on screen. Oh, yes, lovely. Right, there we are. It's on screen there. So basically, it's saying here that Ubisoft is saying the Division 2 may not get crossplay on console. Ubisoft's Division 2 does have crossplay active on it, but it's only for players playing the multiplayer title on PC and Stadia. Ubisoft have not made the function available on PS4 and Xbox One, and the developer is unlikely to do so any time in the future. In the State of the Game broadcast earlier this week, Ubisoft answered questions and made some announcements about the future of Division 2. Crossplay on console will likely not happen due to how big a change would be required, as Division 2 was not made with that in mind, and there are other priorities. So I just thought that was I just thought that was quite interesting that it's not considered a priority on Xbox One or PlayStation 4 that Division 2 has any sort of crossplay. When we have seen many games really embracing the idea of multi-platform crossplay. Now, it matters less would even be a better way of saying it. It matters less on the consoles because obviously they have a much wider base, but it does seem a bit, and so obviously when they're developing it, they never sort of considered this big cross-platform scenario. But it does seem a bit weird because more and more games are making sure that they are crossplay generally, and we're moving in the direction where crossplay is the thing, and therefore it becomes sort of your platform of choice is becoming slightly less precious because it's basically you can still play with your mates, and that's what gaming is, online gaming, and that's the direction online gaming is going. It doesn't matter about what platform you're on, it's about meeting up with your mates, playing on your friends, like Minecraft or Fortnite or whatever, and they can be on any sort of platform. So I just thought it was it was a curious position that they're taking on Division 2, and obviously on Stadia it's absolutely crucial that we have crossplay on everything really, until the player base increases dramatically. And as I've always said about Stadia, this is not a Stadia channel, but I've always said Stadia, it's only in 14 countries, so it doesn't have, it is only small, and so expectations have to be managed accordingly. But definitely crossplay is an essential, I think, for most games. You see, on Apex, PUBG, I mean, PUBG's, interestingly enough, we have cross-play on PUBG with consoles and not PC. But yeah, so that was just thought it was a very interesting piece. What are your thoughts?
I think a lot of it goes back to Sony and Microsoft, of course, and we know we know Microsoft were relatively happy and quite keen to introduce crossplay. Sony were always very tetchy about it and weren't keen at all. I think Google, in some ways, have shown the way by making almost insisting. I think developers build in crossplay to try and make up for obviously at this moment in time fairly small user bases. But I suspect behind the scenes there's some rivalry with Microsoft and Sony that's making it difficult for them to have both consoles as crossplay at the same time.
Yeah, so Sony were the last sort of bastion of reluctance, as it were, in terms of crossplay, and Minecraft is what really drove it, and Fortnite to a certain degree. And when Nintendo, Minecraft appeared on Nintendo, it was like quite a revelation, and I think it represented that the market dictates, or the sort of the consumer dictates the features that are required in a way, and once Minecraft appeared on sort of Nintendo Switch and you could cross-play on it sort of and then Fortnite came along, it sort of PlayStation sort of reluctantly changed their position, but not, it was, they were sort of forced into that position by market forces. I mean, as somebody points out, I think Jerome points out here in the chat, the thing about Division 2 is it's not, it has its main element of it is single player campaign. So the cross-play is not a priority in terms of it's not a battle. So, perhaps it's not fair to compare it with a battle royale game in which it's all about PvP and playing with other people. The vast element of it is you just striving through the story element of the game. But it's still interesting anyway. You're still getting a nasty... I see.
I'm getting a hideous echo, and I think it's my end. I'm just going to quickly.
Okay. Are we?
I'm not going.
I will.
I can see what the issue is.
Okay. So good.
Sorted.
Just check in. Good.
That's me sorted. Thank you.
Right. Okay then. So that's my news. I will. You've got some interesting news you would like to share, I believe.
Yeah. So
I will call it up while you talk.
You call it up. So yeah, I mean, no great surprise because we're gamers and we're doing a lot more gaming in the current climate of the lockdown. But there's also been a huge increase in retro gaming during lockdown, and apparently. There have been not just in the case of dusting down existing hardware or consoles and so on, but also in terms of buying emulated games and even games being rebuilt from old retro games. So, found an article that basically said there was an outfit called what are they called?
So here we are, engineering and technology is where the article was in. Yeah,
and they quote an outfit called Retro Games Co. UK, which is actually amazing. I've never seen it before. It's a treasure trove of hardware, software, bric-a-brac, all sorts of stuff. And they've said that they've had a 30% sales increase because of lockdown, but specifically with retro gaming. And I can imagine you've got scenarios where the whole family unit are at home, and people of our kind of generation, Clive, are going, "Oh, in my day, we played this, that, and the other," and the kids are going, "Well, actually, Dad, you can still get that stuff," and they've sort of, got these games in, and they're all going, "Oh, yeah, and this was great fun," and so maybe we're going to see a boom in gaming, full stop, post this, because it's clearly becoming quite. It's becoming one of those kind of all-encompassing entertainments now. So that I thought was very interesting. It's actually a very good article as well. It's very detailed. They go into all sorts of stats on different types of hardware and how they've improved and increased over the time. And there's an interesting take on Lara Croft.
Yes, I saw that. It's saying that obviously Here it's saying many retro games come with baggage. A perfect example is the 90s Tomb Raider with its blatant sexism. I didn't notice it when I was 9, but I doubt I'll be letting any kids of mine play it due to the blatant objectification of women, especially the infamous nude raider patch. Moreover, though, I'm fearful that as yet unborn teenage kids of mine will laugh at me and ask, Dad, why is everything so pixelated and blurred? Or, where's the VR plug-in? Yeah.
Exactly.
I think also you think so. I believe on Nintendo Switch you've got the Nintendo Shop. If it's anything like the old Wii, and you can access old Nintendo games on there. And I think you're right. There's a whole, and plus I think people probably might be digging out old consoles.
Yeah.
In the loft and stuff, and sort of dusting things down. So I think and interestingly enough, I think that's sort of. I think I can see that, as you say, there's a whole generation of people, as you say, locked in, down together in a house, saying, exactly. In my day, son, this is what I played, and sort of sharing their, just like you used to, you talk about music, or when I was a lad, we listened to this music or whatever, and it's now you've got a whole generation of people who've grown up like ourselves with gaming, and a new generation of people, our sons and daughters, whatever, playing games, and we could say, oh, I remember playing the original version of that, or and boring them senselessly. Oh, Dad, you're so uncool. Whatevs. Whatevs.
There's all that going on.
Yeah.
I think there is. There's only so much. There's only so much kind of listening to bird song and tanning yourself in the garden, and so people are
All the
looking
time.
at, how can I do stuff with my kids because I can't keep
Yeah.
up with the games they're playing, but maybe I can show them some of the games I used to play, and it becomes a kind of shared interest. So it's a fascinating insight, but retro gaming is certainly on the increase.
But and that smoothly leads on to my other news story, which is that it's not just retro games that are on the increase during the lockdown period. So there was this article here. The US video, where's it gone? Clicked return there. It was all there. The US video game sales. So this is based on the US consumers, but we can extrapolate that across the world, really. US video game sales have record quarter as consumers stay at home. Now, I know, obviously, and it's partly the Stadia effect, but partly, being at home all the time. So new numbers from NPD confirm that we've known for a while the first quarter of 2020 was a very good one for gaming companies. The new report notes that sales hit a record 10.86 billion in the States between January and March this year, marking a 9% increase over the same period last year. 9.58 billion of that was from video game content. So of the gaming sales, I presume they're including mobile phone sales games in that, but 9.58, so nearly $10 billion of that is on video gaming. And the primary driver is, of course, COVID-19, their home orders, and as we've sort of said and other people have commented on, it's never been a better time to be a gamer. You chat with your mates, you can have fun. There's gamers coming into their own, really, in terms of trying to find entertainment when you're locked at home. Well, hello. Gaming is the perfect pastime for wasting hours and hours and hours having fun with your mates. Online without leaving the house. They used to criticize this, and now this is the new normal.
No choice now.
Exactly. But yeah, so it's just, and you've had some big game title releases. Quoted here, of course, is Animal Crossing, New Horizons, which had
19 years old. Animal Crossing.
Wow.
I mean, obviously, the new one's not. It's a couple of weeks old, but it originally came out in 2001.
I remember it was just like a sort of a top-down 2D thing, wasn't it then?
Yeah, it's only the same by name, really.
Yeah. But so it's saying that's had a record-setting first quarter as well. So there's been some good, big games really that have driven that. But yeah, just generally the whole lockdown situation has really kind of helped that. Antonio said, gives me 1% of that. Indeed. We'd all give like a 0.1% would do.
But what's interesting as well, and I think I know we try not to go too much about Stadia, but it's relevant in this case because a lot of the games that are on Stadia are remastered games like Serious Sam,
Yeah.
eventually the Mafia trilogy. You know, a lot of the games that have made that initially have come across are games that were big, maybe not so long ago in terms of retro gaming, but nonetheless, they're games that have had their day, but they're still great games to play. The Tomb Raider series, that
Oh
they're
yeah.
even the newest ones that are on there a couple of years old, they're still great games. And there's almost this it's a bit like music as well. There's this thing in with consumers where, right, I've done with that. I want the next shiny thing. And the shame of it is that actually there's still a huge amount of game to play in a lot of those titles. And you can see that when they come back. So when GTA was rehashed for the PS4 with its first person perspective, for example, a lot of people went and bought it again and played it again and re-experienced it. Still a great game years and years later. I think that people are starting to realize that actually, particularly these days where games are so big open world experiences like Assassin's Creed Odyssey, for
Yeah. You
example,
can lose yourself in that.
you
Yeah.
can lose yourself. For Red Dead Redemption Online, you can, and Destiny is another classic. You can literally have that. Could be if only one game. There are so many games these days. If you only had the one game, you're on a desert island, you've got one game. There are so many games that you could literally play for years
Yeah.
and still get enjoyment from them as well.
Well, you've got those massive world games like Red Dead and Assassin's Creed, and then you've got the sort of the constant repeat games like the battle royales and stuff like that, where you just Apex Legends, you just pop in, have a match, lose, pop in, have a match, lose. And one might say that's some sort of form of insanity. It certainly is when I play Apex. If you keep doing the same thing expecting a different result, that's a sign of insanity. But that's how I play Apex Legends. So I must be insane. But it's that that goes on, and even something like Minecraft, which is an open sandbox game effectively. And I spent hours and hours and hours on that, starting from just like building a cave, creating a little fire, whatever, and starting from there to then building a whole complex with some multi-story apartment buildings and everything over, all from not from creative, all from survival, finding the resources, mining the resources, and just building up and up and up. And that's the beauty of that game. You could just Minecraft, exactly, there are games out there that are built to just spend years playing if they're good, and have that.
I've never played Minecraft. It's never played because I've largely been a PlayStation lad.
Yeah. Is it not? It is on PlayStation.
Yeah, but I was maybe a little old.
Yeah.
But don't shoot me.
No. I only played because I was curious. At the time when I bought my Xbox One, the kids, it was partly because they were, everything was about Minecraft. Everybody on YouTube was playing Minecraft. Everybody was talking about Minecraft. Walking around with Minecraft rucksacks and everything like that. So I thought, what, I'm curious because it doesn't look that exciting to me. Why has it got blocky graphics and all this kind of stuff? Blocks and. But once I was in, it just drew me in, and it became very, very addictive. But talking of you talking about Lara Croft, you had some other.
So while I was researching the old retro game increases and the fact, as I said earlier, that people are actually building their own games, I came across a game called Tomb Raider: The Dagger of Zhan, I think it's pronounced.
Here it is. Yeah.
And amazingly, although in this case, and at the moment, I believe it's a large free playable demo, it's essentially a rebuild of Tomb Raider 2, but with slightly better graphics.
Wow.
By a guy called Nico Bass or Bass. I think he's Italian, and but it actually does.
Yes, Nico Bass. Yeah, Nico Bass or Nico Bass. PC only.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is PC only, but he's literally taken Tomb Raider 2 and rebuilt it, but with slightly updated graphics.
Okay, so we've got here. I'll play this video here. Yeah, so you can see she's got the same. Wow.
But it's Tomb Raider 2. Essentially, he's
Yes.
taken the story, but
The,
he's applied up-to-date graphics.
yeah, exactly the same. So it's the same Tomb Raider build, the character build
Yeah.
of Tomb Raider 2, but updated. That's absolutely. I wouldn't mind playing that.
No, it looks great, doesn't it?
It looks really cool to sort of to have that Tomb Raider, because I love Tomb Raider 2.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether I'm a nostalgic view of it, and playing it now would just feel like awful. But playing it with up to date graphics, that's absolutely fascinating. We'll leave. I'll make sure after the show I put a link down to that kind of piece, so if people want to kind of sort of download it and see what they're doing and have a look. But yeah, that looks really, really cool. That's fascinating.
You can play it because you've got a PC.
Yeah, of course I could. Yeah, I don't like to download games onto my PC, but I could do it. It's a bit old school, isn't it?
I know, but it's a shiny new PC.
Exactly. Now, and that's going to lead us on to something a little bit later, actually. More. This is turning into the Lara Croft Tomb Raider show, but more on that later. But you thought I'd forgotten, but I hadn't forgotten. Well, I had forgotten. But I had actually researched this next bit. We're on this day in gaming history. I did have a piece for on this day in gaming history. On this day in gaming history, so it wasn't this day, it was yesterday, effectively, Red Dead Redemption launched. So this week saw the release of the first edition of what at the time was one of the most anticipated games from a major development studio. That studio, of course, bought us Grand Theft Auto's series and were known at the time for pushing the boundaries of, in terms of all the little details in a game world, all the characterizations that make that game world feel real. And so, and that was, when we sort of Grand Theft Auto, that was the experience, sort of 2 and 3. That's the experience that we were getting. The world felt real because of the interactions that you had with other characters, everything that was going on, the humor, and all of that, and also the limited nature. They were controversial what you could do in the game, but it was all part and parcel of the world that they created. So it was with much anticipation that Red Dead Redemption was being launched, and it was built on their Rockstar's development engine, which they developed for Grand Theft Auto, I believe, called Rage, which was the Rockstar Advanced game engine, and it was released for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. And it came out on May the 18th, 2010. So 10 years ago. And then in North America, and then the PAL edition, so Europe and UK, on the 21st. That was back in the day when, it took a day for the things to get shipped over, to fly the hard copies of the discs over the ocean. There was a day delay between the European release and North America.
The ocean, Daddy?
Yeah, it was the ocean. It wasn't day on date drop digitally worldwide.
No.
Anyway, it was a whole day you had to wait. Oh. But anyway, yeah. So effectively, 10 years ago today, we had Red Dead Redemption, and I remember it at the time because nobody had really done a sort of a Western. There was a thing at the time about games that were always had to be about the future, had to be about robots or space all the time, and very few people were sort of changing up the vibe. There's a very sort of stereotypical trope of what games should be about, fantasy, sci-fi, those kind of things. And then we sort of saw it with the Medal of Honor games, which started going back to World War II rather than sort of modern warfare and that kind of thing, and that sort of it kind of worked. And so the idea of westerns as well to me, it kind of, someone grew up watching spaghetti westerns on, BBC Two back in the day and stuff like that. It had a massive appeal. I was a massive spaghetti western fan when I was a kid, and interestingly enough, I'd like to consider myself a bit of a spaghetti western expert, because when I left university, the first thing I did is to set up a video distribution company, and I acquired the rights. Me and my friend and I acquired the rights to some spaghetti westerns and released them on video in the so this prior DVD, before DVDs. Released them on video in the UK market under our video label.
Do you still own the rights?
No, so we acquired it. So it was a license. We effectively bought the license, and we bought them from the British Film Institute, who were handling the rights deal for the UK. Yeah, well, they weren't hardly the spaghetti westerns hardly Saturday morning. They were more movie drone.
Evening with a nice pack of bites.
Yeah, movie drone, 12 o'clock, BBC Two type things. But yeah, so we didn't have the big Clint Eastwood ones because they were obviously owned by Warner Brothers. But they were like, there were 1,500 plus spaghetti westerns.
Wow.
About 1,490 of them are absolutely terrible. But that sort of 0.1% are some really interesting films by some interesting writers who went on to write some interesting things. So Dario Argento, who went on to do some horror films and stuff like that. He wrote some early spaghetti westerns and stuff like that, and directed some.
So cool, because they were filmed in Italy.
They were filmed in Spain, but they were filmed by the Italian film companies. And so it was like EastEnders. They were rolling out. They were making these every week. Wow. There was one spaghetti westerns in which tanks roll onto the background in the hills behind, because they're making a war film in the valley in the Spanish Valley just beyond them.
Like a conveyor belt.
Yeah. So and nobody noticed. And they're like these tanks just because they're doing a war film. Anyway, the point is that's a little sidetrack. So I when I was a lad anyway, and I obviously going to university after university and that job, I always had a fascination with westerns. So the prospect of Red Dead Redemption and having a sort of and it was a spaghetti western where you have your hero is a slightly anti-hero, which is the tradition of the spaghetti western, rather than the clean cut 1950s John Ford type westerns. It was very interesting, and I also remember at the time working in the games industry, and all the game producers and the guys who are really into games there were two things they were fascinated by at that time: water and the horses. Now let me put that in some kind of context. Whenever you had a game that featured water, and some developer would push the boundaries of what digital representation of water would look like. Oh my God, look at the water. Look at the textures on that water. Look at the water. And so the thing with the horse, this was the first time, I think Rockstar put a hell of a lot of time into making the horse physics look really good. So people spent so much time making human physics look good, and they put it into the horse to make it feel like you were riding the horse. The horse looked good when it was riding along, the different actions and stuff. So, of course, the other thing you used to hear at the time was, look at the horse. Look at the movement. Look at the physics in that horse. Look at the movement in that horse. But yeah, 10 years ago today. And now, of course, we've got Red Dead Redemption 2, which it's has still so much to it. And with the online element, just, there's that sort of its own life beyond just the story structure.
Yeah. Do they only use Rage for their own property, or do they license it out to other studios?
I'm not sure, but I imagine it's there. So a lot of, like, Codemasters, I mentioned, built years and years, built up the, an engine for car engine for car racing games. Many developers sort of, some people use bespoke things off the shelf, like Unity that we've seen, and the Snowdrop and things like that, different ones But there are some developers who specialize in a certain field and develop their own, engine specific for that, and can run the assets how they want. And they'll probably have, it'll probably have to plug into other stuff, that other sort of development engines that sort of supply other elements like lighting and stuff like that and stuff. But clearly they've built a good model for Grand Theft Auto games, and it lends itself perfectly to something like an open world, Western, any open world, anything,
Absolutely. It's an amazing engine. David Handley in chat makes a really good point. The Once Upon a Time opening sequence, one of the best, because it's literally one shot, isn't it? Just one shot.
It's not one shot, but it's one
train station.
It's one shot of silence. Yeah. The only sound or lack of dialogue. There's plenty of sound. In fact, sound. This is not the gaming channel, so don't get me started. I'd studied film. I love it. But the opening about 15-20 minutes, there's no dialogue, but the sound is absolutely crucial. Yeah. And it just builds the whole tension up until the moment that Charles Bronson appears, and you've got the wind turbine going, the ticker tape of the guy in the ticket office, creaks of walking on the platform in the wood. It's the soundscape. Exactly, David. Exactly. It's one of my favorite films. It is one of my favorite films.
What's the director called?
Sergio Leone. Yeah, it was the third of his sort of trilogy.
No longer with us, of course.
No. Ennio Morricone, though, I think still is.
He did the music, yeah?
Yeah. Did the music for Quentin Tarantino's Hateful Eight.
Oh, really? Interesting film.
But yeah, so that whole the spirit of those spaghetti westerns is something live in Red Dead Redemption. You could tell the developers grew up on the same appetite or the same consumption as I did of spaghetti westerns and stuff like that. And it's very much more spaghetti western than old school western. But even Clint Eastwood, after his period in the made his own versions of the spaghetti westerns, it were brought that spirit into Hollywood, and you see that in Dead Redemption. And then all the remakes, every so often Hollywood goes through a period of revisiting the western, and they go back to the previous versions of it and draw on that, like The Quick and the Dead and things like that, and tend to be tributes to those old, the spaghetti western type thing.
Oh, amazing.
But anyway,
he's in the chat, and I know that he has a huge passion for Western spaghetti.
Western spaghetti, not spaghetti western.
So, no, he does like a good bowl of Western.
And Eastern pasta. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, there we go. So you get everything on this channel, guys. You get a bit of film culture history. Exactly.
Being a film distributor.
Yeah, it's a film distribution. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Film studios are, isn't it? All the offices inside.
They still are. Yeah, Warner Brothers is still there. Used to that. They're still there because nowadays all the post houses are there. All the post production houses are there and stuff like that. That's its main thing. All the special effects houses tend to be based around there. Still has a vibrant community. But there you go.
Wait to share a beer with you, my friend. I'm sure you've got many a story.
Yeah, indeed. So there we go. So that was this time in history. Red Dead Redemption, 10 years old. Happy birthday. Good seeing you, partner. Happy birthday, Red Dead Redemption. Right. Next on the agenda. So, yes, so as we seem to be fascinated by Lara Croft.
No idea.
No, I think I'm fascinated by Tomb Raider the game. But I came across this interesting video looking at the history of Tomb Raider games, or the evolution more likely. So it is about Lara Croft, let's be honest. So since she first, since I remember first playing this on PlayStation 1 and absolutely just loving the concept, as I said, of the sort of combat and the puzzle and the climbing and all that kind of stuff, it felt like really refreshing. So there's an interesting YouTube video here. I will just call up. We'll get past the adverts first. Game of Thrones mobile phone. Right. So this is, bear with me, caller. Just transition to that, and screen, and then play that. But this is basically the evolution of Tomb Raider from 1996 to 2018, I want to say. I remember the T-Rex. But you can also see how this is Tomb Raider 2. So she even evolved here. Graphically, the jump between Tomb Raider 1 and Tomb Raider 2 is massive. If you look at that, and this is when I played it. I remember that bit so well. That random cat there.
That was a T-Rex.
No, on the floor. I'm sure there's a cat. Like sliding down the wall, the spikes coming in.
Yes.
Then 98, there seemed to be a burst of colour here. It didn't seem to upgrade that dramatically, though. No. There's the water. Yeah, there's sense of the bubbles and the sound effects she makes when she comes out of the water. I'm not mean that in a weird way. I mean, it just adds to the fact that she's been swimming in water. Let's go.
Here we go. So this is the one I played. Tomb Raider 3. This is my favourite one.
Okay, I've just moved it on now. The 99, the last revelation. It's all right.
I'm back in the old days.
Yeah, you're watching on the YouTube. The 99 one is a bit of a leap from 2. 2000. What was this?
Yeah, there were some offshoots that I don't remember. Whether they only came out on PC or something.
I don't remember this sort of 2D scrolling game.
Oh, is this? I haven't got it on my screen, but this might be the one that's coming to Stadia soon.
Chronicles.
Oh, no, not this one. No.
So this Oh, now she's got sniper, using the old sniper rifles. Then we've got again more. I don't remember these side-scrolling ones. Were they on like one of the like the handhelds?
I think they might have been mobile. 2000.
You know, like a Game Boy type thing.
Yeah, well, they could have been mobile games.
Now, 2003, we definitely saw a leap into the Angel of Darkness, and sort of drawing in some tropes we've seen from other games. The stealth one. What was that stealth one on Xbox? The original Xbox. Sam? No, not Sam. Oh, where you used to go around creeping up behind people.
Oh, I don't know.
Can't remember what it's called now. It's a famous. The franchise doesn't exist anymore. Anyway, there's targeting there and stuff. So that was a leap forward. 2007 anniversary. 2008 Underworld. Now we're beginning to see she's still got the sort of the short hot pants and stuff like that. I think it wasn't until we got to Crystal Dynamics taking over. Yeah. So here's, strangely enough, the Temple of Osiris, which is coming out on Stadia. Yeah. It wasn't Hitman, Antonio. It'll come to me. It begins with S.
Sonic.
No, it's not Sonic. It's a stealth game. Relic Run. There are a lot of the Rise of the Tomb Raider. So that's when Crystal Dynamics took a sort of a Splinter Cell. Thank you, Stadia Maynard. That's the one. Sam Fisher. Yeah, Splinter Cell. That was a great game on the Xbox One. And it was all about being stealthy, creeping up on people, using your sniper, unlocking. They were great, great games. But yeah, so what happened is there was sort of, I think, just before Rise of the Tomb Raider, the game before it flopped a bit, and they took it away from Core Dynamics, I think, who were the original, or Core, who were the original sort of creators of it, and they gave it to Crystal Dynamics. That was quite controversial at the time, but they produced Rise of the Tomb Raider, there was a redesign of Lara Croft, obviously with the graphics and stuff, but they also redesigning, like they got rid of the hot pants and all of that kind of stuff.
It's kind of a prequel, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah, and graphically, obviously it saw a vast improvement. And since then, even the fact that Digital Foundry use Lara Croft as or Tomb Raider, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
They use Tomb Raider as an example. So the most up to date Tomb Raider, which is on Stadia, but they always no, it's not. Sorry, it's not Digital Foundry. I'm thinking of Linus Tech Tips. So Linus Tech Tips, whenever he does a gaming PC build, when they're testing it out, see what the graphics are like, he always draws on the I think it's the Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Just to look at the graphical quality to demonstrate, his latest £3,000 gaming PC build. So they're always, Crystal Dynamics are always making sure that the game looks, amazing and beautiful. And as I say, there's plenty of opportunities to play these on Stadia and see, and when you play it in 4K, how stunning the worlds that they create look. And they've really, Crystal Dynamics, although it was controversial at the time, them taking it over, really revitalized the franchise. And I hope there's going to be another one. So she does seem to get hurt a lot. I feel for her.
It's interesting as well. I think that there's been a definite legacy of female-led characters in the last few years. I mean, if you think about Aloy, who is the main character in Horizon Zero Dead, for example, in a similar vein,
Yeah.
in the sense that she is, a very capable heroine. The aforementioned Cassandra in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the same thing. And there are many games now where it was almost unthinkable 10, 15 years ago that you would have anything other than some great macho beast of a man as a hero. And actually now, Guilt, we could probably sit here and think of hundreds.
Well, it was interesting, yeah, because it was more it was never planned that it would be a woman at the outset.
What, Lara Croft?
No. Well, she didn't have a name then. She wasn't called Lara.
Yes.
It was called Bob Croft. I don't know. Yeah, Bob Croft.
The Crofter.
Yeah, the original development. Yeah, Bob Croft. So it was developed by a guy called, I've got the wiki here, but Toby Gard, I seem to remember, at core. And originally, so it was by a British gaming company, Core Design. So one of the many sort of imaginative and sort of cutting edge British game companies that exist in the UK and stuff. And they were owned by Eidos Interactive. And originally, it was meant to be like an Indiana Jones. And obviously, Eidos were worried at the time that people would think, oh, it's a bit close to Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm.
So they were worried about, getting acclaim from, the film studios or whatever on that kind of thing. So they decided, okay, we'll just change her gender, or it's his gender, and changed it to a female, and that is how Lara Croft was born.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was it. And interesting enough, so Toby Gard, I think his name is Toby Gard, the original guy who directed it, who created it or developed it, I think he based the model on his I saw I read it. It's not in the wiki page, but I'm sure at the time on his sister.
It's a bit Oedipus, isn't it?
Well, yeah. Well, that's more on your mother.
Mother,
Yeah. Maybe he based it on his mother. I don't know. No, but as he was looking around, okay, what's she look like? Oh, she's got long hair and whatever. I'll base it around. It's the whatevers, yeah. I'll base it on my sister. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So anyway, that's the history of it, and you can see that was just an interesting video. Again, I'll leave the link later on down below so everybody can see it. But I just thought it's quite an interesting video that shows the transition of Lara Croft from her original form right through to Shadow of the Rise of the Tomb Raider, whatever. And it's just interesting, and it's a fascinating history behind it, and it's a franchise that's just builds and builds because you've got a good story. The story now is, of course, written by Ree Pratchett, who's written the last 2 or 3. Yep, and wrote Lost Page, Lost Words, Beyond the Page. Wrote that, and I've said before in that I find that the spirit of almost like a young Lara, you can imagine it like a young Lara Croft. I hear the same voice, as it were, in that, not physically, but just the spirit of the character. I sort of hear it in very much the story and the script of Lara Croft. So it's interesting. I want to interview her one day just to sort of talk about her, the story behind how she sees Lara Croft, but also how she saw Lost Worlds Beyond the Page as well. So anyway, but just interesting insight into the world of Lara Croft.
Yes, Bob.
Yeah. So there you go. That was the now. So that's that wasn't our blast from the past, though. No. That was just a kind of a history lesson I wanted to share. This week. Okay, we come to the section now, ladies and gentlemen, which we like to call Blast from the Past. And my blast from the past, ladies and gentlemen, I've got it all lined up. Let me put it big for you.
Forsyth impressions. I've got it.
No, not yet. Oh, it's generate, because I changed it. I called it Blast from the Past. It's Generation X game. Yeah, you just love that. Hi, hello. Oh, good game. No, we're not doing that.
That's it, very.
Yeah, okay. My blast from the past is a game that was actually originated in the arcades. And I like to think it's really the grandfather of racing games, or the spirit of arcade. I want to say racing, arcade racing games, really. This is where they really sort of drove what an arcade gaming, racing gaming experience should be. And it is, of course, Outrun. That's what I'm going for. Play the video. Select music. Yeah. You had the music. You had the atmosphere. You had a sense of the world coming to you. And I remember playing this in the, in the arcade and taking it in turns, sitting in the seat, in the arcade seat stuff. And it was fast. It was really fast. It felt exciting. Great music. Yeah, so that's very much that. Very much the sort of, I consider it to be the sort of to say that almost like the game that influenced many other racing games going forward as a game. It was a racing game, video game released in the arcades, as I say, originally by Sega in September 1986. Ladies and gentlemen, 1986. Can you believe that? And it was known for its pioneering hardware and graphics, non-linear gameplay, and a selectable soundtrack. And that was the cool thing, with music composed by Hiroshi Kawaguchi. And the goal was to avoid traffic and reach one of 5 destinations. The game was designed by Yu Suzuki, who traveled to Europe to gain inspiration for the game's stages. And Suzuki had a small team and only 10 months to program the game, leaving him to do most of the work himself. It was a critical and commercial success, becoming one of the best-selling video games of its time and Sega's most successful arcade cabinet of the 1980s. It was ported, obviously, to numerous video game consoles and home computers over the years. It spawned a number of sequels, and Outrun has been cited as an influence upon many, many later games. So there we go. That's Outrun. As I say, it was originally a big arcade game from Sega back in 1986, and really is sort of, not as a sort of a real racing sim, but as an arcade racing game, was the pioneer really, and was considered ahead of its time. And if I think about Burnout, Paradise City, Burnout with the selectable soundtrack that you can get on the radio. You can choose your different radio music, and that's the thing. It's also in Grand Theft Auto, of course.
Yeah.
And that whole kind of thing of having a selectable soundtrack as you race around and stuff, right there in that game, Outrun.
It was a great game, and it was the one. It was the one racing game everybody wanted to have when we were growing up.
Yeah,
And it was just even looking there, the graphics were really great for the time.
they were
Detail,
ahead of their
really
time.
good, really good. Given what they had to work with, and they even had the waves coming in from the sea and stuff. And we looked at the when I was doing the unboxing on the Commodore 64 for games that were only a couple of years before then, and this was light years ahead of what was happening just literally 24 months prior to that. Great game. And the arcade and the games that eventually made it onto home consoles were very similar, actually.
Yeah, no, they were. They were good. They were pretty good ports.
They were pretty good. Excellent choice, Clive.
And
Good morning, and
and your choice then?
Yeah. So I leapt forward a few years this
Yeah.
week, because last week we went all the way back to the very first vector-based consoles, and I thought, what was the game? What was the kind of modern game that I remember the most, that had the most impact on me? And I think a lot of people will chime in on this one. It was Half-Life from Valve.
Here we go. Everyone used to talk about this. Yeah. I hope I've got the right version here. It's not the new one. I think it's the original one. I found a video for you. So
I'll see it in 30 seconds.
Okay. I'll come on. Keep going on it.
So yeah, 1998, which is in itself amazing, given again the quality, because this was one of those games where up until that point everything was very formulaic. You went down very set map paths. It was basically something's just jumped out in front of you, shoot it. And then Valve brought out a game that was developed by Valve, who of course went on to create Steam. But it was published through Sierra.
Yeah.
This was, and again, this opening sequence that you've just been watching, and I'm seeing now for the first time. There was this. It was very cinematic. We talked earlier about the Spaghetti West, the opening sequence to Once Upon a Time in the West, and a similar thing here, where for the first time there's this opening sequence with credits rolling. You know that you're just entering the game. And you're going deep into what was it called? The Mesa plant.
Yeah.
It was where the whole game's kind of set, and it's very foreboding and dark, and it's setting a scene, and it's one of the things that helped the game at the time was that there was a very limited palette in terms of the assets and the colors, but as much as it helped it technically, it also really helped with the atmosphere of the game. And it was truly, I remember playing it first time around on PC, and just felt completely immersed in this world. They really hit home with one of the very first games you were mentioning earlier about how this is how Rockstar have gone about doing a similar thing, but very much one of the very first kind of larger feeling games that they were trying to achieve, go beyond the sort of linearity of previous video
They
games.
set a benchmark on this game, really. It was the one game that I remember, the developers and producers and everything that I used to hang out with when I, back in the day, that they all made reference to this. It seemed to be so far ahead of any other game at the time, and it's held in such regard.
It really is, and interestingly as well, like many of the kind of cult bands of the 60s and 70s that maybe had one massive album and then decided to pull themselves out of the scene completely. Similarly with Half-Life, although we did have Half-Life 2 and we did have Counter-Strike, the reality is that they purposefully decided not to make it an everlasting franchise.
Yeah.
And although again recently on PC only, they released Half-Life Alyx. I think it's a VR only title.
Alex was the main character, wasn't he? With the guy with glasses.
That was Gordon Freeman.
He was the guy with glasses, though, wasn't he? The character.
Gordon Freeman.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was the main. Yeah, he was the main character. But again, a very untypical. I mean, we just saw this superhuman looking Lara Croft back
Yeah,
in the day, and then you look at people in Doom and Quake and so on, and they're all big Schwarzenegger scale people, and Gordon Freeman was a very slight,
yeah.
nerdy looking
That's
scientist.
always what struck me at the time, and I thought,
Yeah,
oh, I get the appeal. Not only does this game feel really advanced, but also all these nerds uh, are instantly relating to this main character
yeah.
with his spec. Not that I'm stereotyping, in his
No, no,
specs and slightly, they're not. It's not Duke Nukem
no,
or
no.
anything like that kind of stuff. And so
And the
they're
game was
going,
never based on your ability to be
yeah,
a good shooter.
no, and there was an
It was a
intelligence to it, the
puzzle,
character,
very
yeah,
much, very much. A really good story, very engaging story, and you had to use your wits and your intellect as much as you did your ability to shoot stuff. But there was always something around a corner, and you knew it was going to happen. There was always that mysterious noise just around the corner.
yeah,
It's still to this day, if you can get past the dated graphics, because
yeah.
clearly they are, it's still a great game to play, and I think you can still play it on Steam.
Well, of course,
Um,
there's the VR version now.
Alex, which again
Yeah,
I've not played. I
and
know people
I've seen bits
say
of it,
it's
and it seems to me to be doing what Half-Life, the original, was doing with PC gaming at the
already.
time. It's
Yeah,
sort of wow,
yeah,
this is something new. This is like much better looking than Counter Strike or anything like that. This is something that seems a step ahead of everything else.
yeah,
And of the Half-Life Alex I've seen, and I think some YouTubers play it, it looks a step beyond
yeah.
your normal VR games that people play, and it feels like a VR, almost edging towards how we imagine a VR game should, especially a first person game should be. Not too simplistic. It almost feels like you are in the world, and that's where, that's the great disappointment of VR. It never quite feels
No,
as good as the promise, as it were. But the Half-Life Alex does seem to be trying to push
and I
that
think there's
boundary a bit further.
and I think as well, linking it again with Rockstar, I think that's one of the things that Rockstar are famous for, is that they don't fall over themselves to bring out a game every other year.
No,
They take their time to actually perfect something that moves the genre on.
yeah, yeah,
So
they exactly. I mean, you're absolutely right. They know that it's about the detail,
yeah,
and they make enough money on their games now
of course they do.
that they can afford to spend the 2-3 years building it, releasing it,
Yeah,
and the amount of money they make is enough to
oh,
cover
it's
them for those 2-3 years.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
it's a ridiculous amount of money they make on those games. So and then they have longevity. So you think there's been two, as we mentioned it earlier, there's been two Red Dead Redemptions in 10 years.
take it really.
So they're not churning them out like a lot of other big franchises that we can think about. That maybe EA might have.
Call of Duty every other
You
year
know,
or every year, and
yeah.
there's a pattern that they. To be fair to them, though, they do again push that game. I mean, but they do it by rotating the studios. Of course, it's the only way they can do that. But I think generally in gaming anyway, the expectation of the consumer is so high now that it's difficult to get away with just turning out rubbish.
Okay, chat.
Sorry.
Um, Uh, okay, chat. So, good evening, Mariko. How are you? Good evening, Chase. Thank you for. I thought you were chasing us, Chase. Uh,
Yeah,
apologize.
please hurry
Yeah,
up.
yeah. When he said question mark exclamation, it's like, you boys, you're late. It's all right. We're cool. We're having our own club.
Yeah,
But he wasn't. He wasn't.
yeah.
Apologies. So there we go. The choices this week are Outrun, ladies and gentlemen. Perhaps the godfather of all arcade racing games, or certainly the grandfather of all arcade racing games, or Half-Life. Chat, it's time to vote, ladies and gentlemen. Put O in the chat for Outrun and put H in the chat for Half-Life. Go. Let's see what everybody thinks. O for Outrun, H for Half-Life. Let's have a vote.
Remember, I won last week,
Yeah,
folks.
all right, don't rub it in.
Just remember.
Yeah, but then I might get a sympathy vote.
You might do.
But then they think they don't
want
appear to be giving me the sympathy vote, so they might then go the other way. I see, double psychology.
Oh, double psychology.
Yeah.
Do you know? Just while we're waiting for them to vote,
Wake up.
I've noticed in the top corner here that there appears to be a rather attractive new logo.
Oh yes, of course. Yes. Has anybody spotted our brand new logo?
Look at it, shiny.
Designed by, I'm going to point in the right direction. Over there, up there, and over there. Designed by Mr. Rokk himself.
Well, with support from Mr. Linden.
H. Dasadini, that's one vote, doesn't count. We need other votes. H or O, ladies and gentlemen. Put it in the chat, Dasadini. Oh, yeah, OH. I'm taking that as an O, Jerome.
Certainly sounds like an O.
Yeah. I'm pronouncing it O, so it's an O. It's definitely an O.
Well, it's a draw.
Anybody else? Come on. Yeah, Half-Life or Outrun?
I don't know why. I hear you, folks.
Rock's voice is lower volume. And maybe I'm because I'm so loud. Oh, actually, let me take up the desktop audio. There we go.
Is that any better?
Whoa.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. You're really loud now. There we are.
You've not heard all my beautiful stories and repartee.
Oh, thank you, David.
I'll remember that, David. I remember.
While everybody's deciding, don't be shy. Put your vote in there. Remember, O for Outrun, H for Half-Life. Got it up later. Tough one.
Outrun
the stadium. Only because me and my older brother used to play Outrun together. Yeah. Yes, because I think you could sit next to each other in the cabinet. You can't vote for yourself. Okay, so I have to put O.
The monk.
So there, that cancels that.
Oh, look at that. That's like a couple of Lara Crofts stood next to each other.
Couple, there's 5 O's in it.
Look, it was me that went to the boys' school, mate.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see now. That's why it's the first thing you saw.
Yeah.
Like the Earth stats test or whatever it is, or the
exactly.
ink test. Yeah, Jerome, better now. Yeah, I think it's
a definite O. I think we're going to have to call it
Outrun. We're saying it's Outrun. Yeah. Outrun wins. Yay!
I concede. That's one.
Apologies for. I retract my H. Change it to O. Yes, of course you do.
Only because of spaghetti.
Yeah. So I think the audio was probably me. I had the desktop audio down below on OBS. So
I've been like right here and everything.
Yeah, my fault. But you're better now. So
yeah.
Anyway,
so, congratulations to Clive. Congratulations.
1-1.
Well deserved.
1-1, ladies and gentlemen. 1-1. Yeah. I think that is. I think that's it for today. I think we've covered off everything. I think we've done a good old. Oh. No. I closed down. I know. I closed down Discord.
Oh no!
Like a fool.
Almost killed us off.
1 second. Here we are. You're there. Turn my video camera on. There we go.
I'm here.
Pop out. There we go.
I was chatting to myself for ages there.
Do the squishle on the game. Do that. Select the thingy. Properties. Where's he gone? Bear with me, caller.
The meter ran out.
Yeah. There we go.
Popped out and grabbed some fish and chips.
Sorry about that. That was me. I was closing up shop. I was closing down the script, and I accidentally closed down Discord.
What would it be without the old
technological gremlins? I've got so many boxes open, ladies and gentlemen. Here, so many tabs and whatnot. It's very complicated.
Yeah.
Trust me, that's my excuse, and I'm very old. But anyway, we're back, ladies and gentlemen. We're back just to say thank you, everybody who came in today, everybody who came and watched us. We really, really appreciate it. If you're new here, then make sure you hit the subscribe. Share this with your friends. Tell them what a fun time we have every Tuesday evening here on the Generation X Gaming Club. And I think on that note, ladies and gentlemen, since we're now back live, bringing it to you with our beautiful fresh faces, it's a goodbye from me.
It's a goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from the Generation X Gaming Club.
Fist the mic.
Yes. Oh, easy. Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Take care, everyone. Have a good week.